So let me give you some very brief descriptive stats on this paper. Because of fixed effects, it's all within. So the within stats are what the relevant stats are. So the UDS scores, as well as the polity, PACL, etc., they vary between -2 and +2. That they're sort of standardized, okay? -2 and +2. For example, Jamaica scores will vary between 0.5 and 1.25. I'll show you a graph about Jamaica. Maybe in the last couple of minutes, I have a couple of Jamaica, Barbados graphs which might inform the discussion later on. Okay, the within standard deviation for the UDS scores is 0.455. That tells you that there is a lot of variation in this data. It's not like much of the variation is in the middle range. So if you're a liberal democracy with strong democratic institutions, once you're there, you've kind of reached that nirvana thing, and you're not going to move backwards. But if you're in the middle, then there's a lot of movement. I'll show you the transition probabilities in and out of from a poorer regime quality to a higher one, and vice versa. Okay. Openness has an average across the sample of 0.646. So there's a lot of countries which have huge, they're very open. So Jamaica is an example. Its openness measure is routinely over 1 or close to 1, as are most of the Caribbean countries. So openness is a big determinant, and there is a lot of within variation in the data of 0.22. Then there is some other variables. We'll come to that when we come to it. Very quickly, I want to show you some transition probability. These are within transition experiences. So if you look at, all right. So the transition probabilities. These are these intervals. So I've broken down democracy scores into a variety of intervals. So 1.5 to max. These are Western European and the United States and Japan, countries like that, and graded down. So for example, Jamaica will be here, 0.5 to 1 or 1 to 1.5, and across the diagonal are the probabilities that they don't move from that interval. Okay, and these probabilities are pretty high, about 43%, 50%, and if you get to a high democracy score, there is 83.3% of the country experiences are to stay in that interval. So the larger the score, the lower the probability of transitioning out of that interval. In the intermediate range, there's quite a lot of transition. So supposing you're in the -0.5 to 0 range. The probability of moving one step down is 24.6. The probability of moving one step up is 15.7%. So there is quite a substantial probabilities of transition which we exploit in for our results. Very briefly, here's the graph. I don't know if you can see this graph, but basically this is the democracy. It's a simple mean of cross-section regime scores, and this is from 1950 on to 2000. So you can see the third wave begin in the mid 70, and the democracy scores increase. Okay, so that's kind of overall evidence of that wave. This is the first set of results, and let me read some numbers out from here. We're trying to look for a specification, and one of the things that we want to find out is whether what about time fixed effects? So do we want to include time fixed effects? Can we get away with including just the trend? Because we don't have that many degrees of freedom to mess around with. And so what we find is in this exploratory, not exploratory, in this set of results where we are trying to find a specification, that just including a time trend is good enough. It's better than year fixed effects. Because it's a dynamic model, that the lag dependent variable takes care of a lot of stuff. Okay? And so I'll focus your attention on the middle two columns. So the first column is the two-stage least squares results, and the second column is the Arellano-Bond results. They're different. And one of the one of the things, one of the ways in which it is different is that the lagged UDS scores don't seem to matter in the two-stage least squares results, but they matter a lot in the Arellano-Bond result. Okay? Openness, the strong evidence about openness is this. Openness does not, greater openness does not increase the quality of a regime. That's the result. And in the previous literature, which did not control for fixed effects, the authors like Econ, Green, and LeBlanc, Cordova et al., they found exactly the opposite. They find that an increase in globalization or trade openness actually increases regime quality. That is exactly the opposite of what we find, exactly the opposite, and that goes through our result. We don't necessarily find that it diminishes regime quality. I mean, that result is not as robust as we'd like to see a robust result. I mean, we come into this study with no preconceived notion of what might be causing these things. We're trying to find a reason after the fact, but it's negative. So the Arellano-Bond model is very strongly negative. So the coefficient of minus 1.364 on the openness variable may be translated as follows. So remember, any coefficient, if you want the long run impact of that, it has to be multiplied by 1 over 1 minus 0.513. So very roughly speaking, it's like this. For a 1 standard deviation increase, a within standard deviation increase in openness, right? So a 1 standard deviation increase in openness of about 0.22 increases, decreases regime quality by more than 1 standard deviation, by 0.66, by about 1.5 standard deviations. That's the Arellano-Bond result. That's a very strong result. It's statistically significant, but it's politically and economically significant. That's a very large number. And that's the surprise here for us.